Are you going?
Yeah, the thing's rolling.
Stand
We got
up.
wavelengths.
All right. Welcome, everybody. We're so excited you're here. Thank you for coming.
If you came in late, be sure to check with us. You get a shot glass by attending today. All right, Stan, take it away.
Oh, are we rolling then?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
Light Talk. Lumen Brothers. Light Talk. Light Talk. Light Talk. Lumen Brothers. Light Talk.
Hello and welcome to Light Talk. This is Stan from Gainesville, Florida.
And hi, this is Ann from Las Vegas, Nevada.
And this is Brackley from Las Vegas, Nevada.
And hell, this is Steve. I'm from Las Vegas, Nevada, too.
Today.
And we are the Lumen Brothers.
And sister. How many times do I have to tell them?
We'll get there.
So coming to you from LDI and Las Vegas, Nevada today. But before we get too far in our podcast, we want to give a shout out to the 5th annual High-End Systems Hog Factor teams from Brooklyn College, Webster, and Carnegie Mellon. Congratulations, everybody. Great work yesterday.
Now, for those of you who are Light Talk connoisseurs, you may notice a new face at the table.
Yay!
Sitting to my right is Brackley Freyer from the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. He joins our merry band today, and he is standing in for David Jacques. David is opening My Fair Lady in Palermo. He's taken his West End cast across Europe, and he is now waiting 4 time zones away from us for our recording tapes so he can edit this podcast and have it on the air in the morning.
He's already asked us how it went.
Yeah, he thinks it's over already.
We miss you, David.
I see folks who were at the first LDI podcast 2 years ago. Some are wearing hats.
Yay!
So if you've been here before, welcome back and thanks for coming. If you were here year 1, you may remember that we had 0 swag. If you were here at year 2, we really upped the ante and you got a sticker. And what our students have told us is that we need better swag. So today you asked for it, and we've got the shot glasses.
And the coffee mug. So it's very cool stuff this year.
You know, I live in Dallas. I just want you to know that the good men and women of Light Talk Central have exceeded our expectations this year. All the swag you see was gently removed from our warehouse in Dallas, Texas, with sterilized, contamination-free gloves and placed on a custom leather pillow. It was carried to the shipping department and sent to Las Vegas for our LDI podcast. Our 33 Light Talk interns inspected the entire order. They then polished all the items to make sure your swag is the best possible that it can be. Our lead packing specialist, Roxanne lit a candle. A hush fell over the entire Light Talk team as she placed your swag in its package and sealed it with a kiss. We had a wonderful celebration afterwards. I then jumped on my 47 knucklehead, rumbled down the street to the post office where, you guessed it, the entire state of Texas lined up to cheer your package as it went to Las Vegas.
So today, the Lumen Brothers and Sister are once again broadcasting from the 2019 Live Design International in Las Vegas, Nevada.
We are locked in a room with colleagues and friends to discuss design, technology, and education.
So we've passed out our cars to the audience, and we've got them back. I think we've selected the question. And Ann, what are we going to do?
Here's the exciting thing. Ready? Each person who has a question selected will get this special limited edition Light Talk coffee mug.
And they really are limited.
Yeah,
There's
they
only
are.
12 in the world.
So Stan, what's our first question?
Oh, it's me. Any advice for someone moving from the live world to the permanent install world. Who wrote
Hey,
that?
come get
Come
a
on down.
mug.
Come on down.
All right.
Yay!
So for our podcast listeners, our contestant is running forward to get his mug. He's thinking about putting his beer in it.
You can visualize that if you're listening on the radio.
Well, what's the answer?
Oh, I have to answer it? I thought I just had to ask
I don't know.
it.
We can all answer.
We can all answer it. So I don't know. When I think about this, I do permanent installs. Lately, I've been involved in a competition that I want to plug. Can I do that? Sure. So SGM is doing this thing called the Icon competition, which is like hog factor for building facades. So we're doing that on my campus, and they make these what they call POI, permanent outdoor installation versions of their fixtures. So water might be one thing. If you're going to do permanent installs, the equipment is going to be exposed to things that they're not normally exposed to in a studio or a theater. So let's just start with that in terms of the durability, the robustness of the machine itself, particularly when we get into high technologies like automated lights and other things. So I think that's an issue. Is it designed to last a long time in environments that are not as sort of maybe protected as our typical environments are?
Yeah, I was thinking just in terms of architectural lighting as well, because that's something I've done a fair amount of. And my suggestion would be looking at architectural lighting, because live, what did we call it? Live install?
Permanent install.
Permanent install could
Yeah.
be, it could be an art installation, could be an architectural thing, something like that. So I would suggest trying to get an internship in an architectural firm, because many of them are looking for theatrically based lighting designers. So we have a big advantage there. So see if there's an internship to start off with if you don't know much about the architecture area. I'd say take a class in architecture if you can, and also in art, depending on what kind of installs you want to do, and just start that way. Like your theater background will help you in that. It's just finding the other side of the coin that you need to learn, and learn AutoCAD, because Vectorworks is mostly theater, AutoCAD is mosely architecture.
I'll take a little bit of it. So in architecture, the smaller firms tend to do Vectorworks, I find, and the larger firms that can afford the Autodesk licenses. Yeah. But I do want to say something that you mentioned about theater, that somehow the theater people have a different work ethic than people who train in engineering and architecture. Like the architects and engineers go home at 5 o'clock, right? They're sort of used to a normal schedule, and the work ethic that we bring, I think, is something that advantages people who are moving from the theater world into the permanent install world. So that's to your advantage, I think.
I have the next question. In a collaborative field like lighting design, what do the Lumen brothers and sisters do to maintain their solo artistic voices?
Solo?
That is a very deep question. Oh, precious on Clifton Taylor.
Interesting. Great, Clifton. Good question. For us. It's a question like for our personal stuff.
I feel like I need a minute to think about
that.
Yeah,
that's a slow thinking question. I don't have a.
In a collaborative field, how do we maintain our artistic voices?
I know how you do, and I was very impressed by it.
I don't know. I think collaboration, in my opinion, collaboration is the key to what we do. But I do want to try to have an artistic vision and artistic viewpoint as well. So I think it's just really finding that balance when you're in the room with the collaborative team, how much I'm okay with, compromising my views. I'm never one of those people that's like, well, it's my lighting, it's this way, because that's a quick way to not get hired again. So I like to find sort of the balance between those two so that you can still bring something to the table, but also work as a team, So I think there's maybe an intermediate answer to that question, perhaps.
I wonder what it means to work with people that you have known for some time and trust. That director, that set designer, projection, costume designer. I'm going to argue sometimes it's about surrendering to the best voice in the room. I think you can maintain integrity in that if you bring something to the table. I think an honest conversation about the direction the production's going is a healthy thing to have. I think when we get too departmentalized, we miss out on opportunities. We kind of, I don't want to be cliche, but we set the radio on transmit rather on receive. So I love collaboration. I love talking to people. I love hearing what everyone else has to say in the room. I'm not afraid to voice my opinion and sometimes, maybe be a jerk about it. but I want to hear what my collaborators have to say.
Yeah, I agree with Steve on that one. We all have our own individual styles that come out, I think, for all the shows that we do. But I think the collaboration for me is the wonderful part of doing a show. And every show is different, too. Some will be more collaborative and some will be less collaborative. But I think that is one of the most important things.
You know, I'm sort of thinking about this question in a different way. And maybe I'm wrong about the way Clifton asked it, but he says to maintain their solo artistic voices. So I'm wondering if you mean, do I do any kind of art or creative work that is not part of a collaborative team?
Oh, he's nodding and pointing.
Am I right? Because, can I use you as an example? Because I think it's good, and I'll try and answer it for myself personally. I know that Clifton is painting watercolor, and he posts these beautiful images, which I think genuinely, right? And my buddy in the back, whose mother is a lifelong watercolorist, I think there's something about you need to sort of work on your own to develop your own sort of, not necessarily your style, but your own muse. And when you're in that collaborative environment, it's not, you do have to sort of throttle back your muse, as Steve is saying, as they're all saying, to the collaborative goal. And so I think that's really important. And I'll mention a book that I love called The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. And if you don't know, I think we have it on the website.
Absolutely.
Which talks about that. So for me, I'll be honest, confession, I'm not doing enough of that because my life is too busy. I started out as a potter, right, with clay. And I was fascinated by the shaping of form. And then I was fascinated by how light altered the shape of a form that I knew that was the form, but now it looks different in this light or that light. So I want to get back to that for me in a way to feed my own creativity. And I think maybe I'd even be so bold as to say everybody should have one, whether it's playing the guitar or painting or drawing or music or something else besides the collaborative, to feed that individual expressiveness that you then carry over, of course, into your work as a collaborator. So that's my answer. That's yes, your inner expressiveness. Yeah, it's a great question, and I hope I answered it.
Stan should get a mug for answering that correctly.
Oh, good, because you know what? We only ordered enough, and I was lamenting that he's got my hat, and I want a mug. No, I'm kidding.
See.
Everybody gets a mug.
We'll see.
But thank you.
All right, Brackley, you're next.
I have the next question. How do you know you're ready for graduate training? And who did that one?
Hey!
Oh.
Come on up for your mug.
How do you know you're ready for graduate school? I was taking part today in the portfolio review down the hallway. And what struck me was the students who came were pretty confident. They knew they weren't ready for graduate school. And the reason they knew they weren't ready for graduate school is that some of them weren't sure if they even liked the theater. They wanted to go out and work. They wanted to work in the industry. They wanted to see what it was like at a commercial house. They wanted to live that life for a couple years while they're developing their skills. So I say, how do you know you're ready for graduate school? I think you're ready for graduate school if there's this real burning passion that theater is something you have to do. If you have to do it and you're going to commit to it completely and you want to be in that classroom, you want to be in that environment, and you have skin in the game every day of the week, then maybe it's time for graduate school. If it's a passing fancy, if it's something, if you're not on fire about it, then you're probably not going to do very well because you'll be surrounded with another 8 or 9 students who do have a big passion about it. I think you're ready for graduate school when you realize you've hit a ceiling. And there's a skill set and an understanding, and your eye is not sophisticated, and you're wondering what you're missing. I think you're ready for graduate school when you're ready to come back and you want to release all of these things that you do that are safe, that you do really well. I'll put amber here, I'll put blue there. It works on every show. I mean, no one wants to be ridiculed. No one wants to be teased. So when you come to graduate school, if you're not ready to be embarrassed, if you're not willing to get rid of that amber and blue and put green and purple up, if you're not ready to experiment, I mean, this is the place you can experiment, and I don't think there's a lot of consequences behind it. You're not in the commercial world. You're there to try ideas, bounce them off your professors, bounce them off your colleagues in class. So ready for graduate school? It's a combination of things, but for me, it's the passion, it's the I'm curious, there's some stuff I don't know, there's something that It could be something as easy as I don't know how to read a play. You know, I just don't know how to read a play, and maybe I should learn. What do you think, Brackley?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's learning how to do this. I think it's really important that you have the love and the passion for theater, and that you want to learn how to fail. That sounds strange, but that's what you can do in grad school. You can learn how to fail. Really push your limits, and see where you're at in your world. I think that's important because we do kind of strange things. We sit in a dark hole and play with lights all day. So you have to have the passion and the love for it, and really have a hunger for learning more.
I'd agree with both answers, and I was just going to add that I think a lot of people say to people who are considering grad school that there's one answer that's right. Either you go straight in from undergrad or you wait and don't go straight in from undergrad. And a lot of people think there's one answer for that. I'm not one of those people. I think that it's individual between every student, you know, whether they're ready. Some people are ready right out of undergrad. I was one of those. I was raring to go. I jumped right in, even though originally I thought I was going to wait. But, you know, life changed and I was ready for grad school. And so I just knew I was ready for grad school. Whereas other people aren't ready. They need to go out and figure out their focus. Like when you go into grad school, typically you have one or two interests that you're looking at. Whether that is something like scenography or it's lighting design or it's something, but you want to focus on that, like Steve was saying. So I think just don't have somebody tell you there's one answer one way or the other if you need to wait or not. That's an individual choice, and you'll know when you're ready.
I have an odd, weird story that'll never, ever, ever happen again. It's just the gods were aligned, the clouds were aligned. We had a young man come to grad school who was in his 30s, high school teacher. And he showed up, and he was going to be a set designer. And he wasn't bad. But what he found out in 3 years is that he was a great costume designer. Oh. And he had never had an opportunity. He had never really understood what it was. But in 3 years, he turned into a great costume designer, our friend Thomas Segali. This is the part that is never, ever going to happen ever again. He graduated from college, and 6 months later, he had a Broadway show as a costume designer. I mean, he never thought he would be a costume designer, but he was there, and he also, because he was a set designer, and he had never done costumes, he had no rules. He hadn't boxed himself in somewhere. Mm-hmm. He was just creating it as he went. And some days it was just like, oh my God, what are you doing? And then some days it's, oh my God, what are you doing? But he was, those things happen every now and then, but not too often.
And the other thing is that all grad schools aren't for everyone. So you want to really, if you're interested in grad school, look at all the grad schools because they're all different. They all offer wonderful opportunities for every student, but it's all different. So you have to figure out where you want to be for 3 years with who you want to be with. So I think that's also a valuable asset.
So these folks have answered this question really well in terms of the specifics. I want to be a little, when you asked the question, my mind originally went to something philosophical. And I'm lately thinking about these two kinds of thinking, intuitive versus analytical thinking. And I think most of the time we think fast and we think intuitively, and most of the time intuitive thinking is right. When it's wrong, it's really wrong. We should have slow thought that. So when I was about to get married, and I had friends who were all very happily married, and I wasn't, and I asked folks, how did you know that you had the right person? And they gave me this answer that just never made sense. We just knew. I'm like, please, come on. No, we just knew. And I didn't know what that meant until I met the right person, and all of a sudden, I just knew. Like I could not find a doubt when I really went inside myself. Do you feel any nervousness about this decision, Stan? Ring the bell. Nothing. No doubt. I knew it was the right thing. So I think all of that is right, and then there is intuition. And so if you're making a decision and you're going to go to what school or whatever, and you go there and you think, I think, if you don't feel like this is the right thing, it probably isn't, because that intuitive thinking is also part of it. So I think it's all of the things that these guys said, and listen to your heart, because it knows.
That's great.
Okay, I've got the next question here. Let's see who fesses up on this one. What feature do you think lighting manufacturers are still missing in their fixtures? Come on down.
What features? That's the question.
What features? Here you go.
Are still missing?
Thank you.
I can tell you what's not missing. The damn fans. Once they could get the lights silent, if they would concentrate on that for a little bit, I think that's the feature they've all got that they don't want. I saw something, I don't know if it's a feature that people are missing, but I'm kind of interested to see where the technology is going to go. It's over at the Martin booth, and they have that new light that they've put some fancy name on that I can never pronounce, but it has the laser engine in it. Oh. So I'm anxious to see where they take that technology. It's incredibly bright. It produces red, blue, and green, which may be the problem they're struggling with. Sorry? Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, George Masick. Clay Packy. Thank you, Christine. Clay Packy. So I'm anxious to see where they take that, because I think they're going to have to solve that color mixing problem as they move forward.
I think they need to start thinking like Apple and keep making these things thinner and lighter. Wait, can you make them lighter? I think that has I don't know if that's lighter.
And quieter.
And what?
Lighter.
Well, they're pretty quiet. A lot of them quiet these days. Some of the ones I got are pretty silent, but they're heavy, like 110 pounds for the ones that I have. So I think, can we go to materials that are lighter? That maybe that raises costs. I think it helps in shipping. It helps in green. It helps in,
I don't know. I mean, maybe a show of hands. I'm going to be contrary. I don't want plastic lights.
No.
How many people are? Do you think weight is a factor? What does our audience think? So a number of people do think that weight's a factor.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not so sure about
that. If you
that.
could do it, not plastic. I'm not saying make them cheap. I'm saying this is still aluminum. This is strong.
Oh, I want steel. Iron, cast iron.
Didn't you have a fake sponsor that made like a plastic light or something? I think you did.
I think mine is I want moving lights not to just move like this, and I'm moving my hand in circles for those listening, but to be able to move everywhere.
You want the drone.
I kind of want the drone, but it's got to be quiet.
Yeah.
But he had the moving light that tracked like this, and you saw the shadows move. It tracked from stage left to stage right, and you saw the shadows move, and it was absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
So I feel like moving lights need to move in more directions than just this, and whether that's a drone, I don't know, but something new and exciting is what I'm looking for with the movement of the piece.
And I'd like quieter drones. I mean, I think the drone show they have out here is beautiful, and they had one last night at the awards ceremony, but you could hear them.
Yes.
I don't know if that's possible, but that would be a fun thing to do.
I'm going to share a vision that somebody on the show floor told me last year, but said, don't share it. I don't think it exists. It's like a vision for the future. But they said, imagine this. And they said there were some places where this is being installed. Imagine a grid, 360, 180. Entire space is gridded. And at every intersection point, there is a light emitting device, let's just say. But it's pixel based, right? And so the entire space is mapped from all of these light emitting devices at each intersection of this dome, essentially. And therefore, then you could light anything from anywhere in three-dimensional space, controlled pixel by pixel, which sort of gives you what Anne is suggesting without moving a fixture, like the sun moves across the sky. You could literally do all that. And that's what this person said is in some studios in Asia already and is coming. I've not seen anything about it. But I did see an application of this idea in a flat surface. If anybody has seen, there was an advertisement done for the Ford Explorer on a football field. And the entire football field is mapped by projectors, and then the Explorer is driving across the field. Now, what's lighting the Explorer are pixels from the mapped projections, and the animation that's on the field is coming from the same projectors. And that Explorer is tracked and lit naturally, and it was like, oh my God. So I think that might be sort of a feature that, or a rethinking, other than heads in the air, that starts to emerge maybe by the time I'm sitting on a beach somewhere, listening to Light Talk from 20 years ago. I don't know, but it's an interesting vision, I think.
I'd like to have a discussion at LDI or somewhere. Where's the industry going in the next 20 years? What is the new technology? Where are we going with all this stuff? Just interesting.
I have that on this question. So we'll be getting into that in a second.
Well, before we get there, let's do this part. Coming to you from LDI in Las Vegas, Nevada, it's Light Talk, and Light Talk is sponsored by...
From south of the border, it's Bad Hombre Stage Productions, the folks who brought you La Luce Libre de Brazo. You heard me right, an arm wrestling kit. You get a piece of chalk and 2 sharp knives. Draw a circle, place the knives in the patented holders, and let the fun begin. Now the LD and the stage manager can settle that calling conflict with honor. Bad Hombre Stage Productions, the folks who brought you La Luz de la Muerte. That's right, the flashlight of death. Producing 4,100 lumens of light, you can fry an egg, melt a plastic flamenco, or blind the uprigger and watch him fall. Bad Hombre Stage Productions, the people who brought you Manguera de Soporte para LD. You heard me right. Support hose for the lighting designer that are made to help control swelling in the feet, ankles, and lower legs from standing at the all-day focus call. Terry, you can now squeeze those areas and prevent pain and fluid buildup. They even work on cankles. And now, Bad Hombre Stage Productions introduces Estomago No Mas. If you're like me, you probably have a large T-shirt collection. A 73 Tony Orlando and Dawn yellow ribbon, an 84 Jan Hammer Miami Vice, and the holy grail of T-shirts, a 2008 Nickelback Dark Horse tour. I love these shirts, but they seem to have shrunk over the years. I don't know what happened. They've just gotten smaller. Then I discovered Estomago No Mas, stomach no more, made from recycled bicycle tires. Just wrap them around your tummy and select your size. Small, medium, or large. Just add air and watch your tummy flatten. Now you can relive your teenage years. Estomago No Mas. Shipping now from Bad Hombre Stage Productions.
And now, back to Light Talk.
Okay, so someone used blue ink, and they write, what trends have you noticed on the LDI show floor from this year? Any thoughts or ideas about trends in the industry? Who did that? Oh, there she comes. I wondered why there was such anticipation on your face with every question that was read. Christina would perk up, and then she would kind of retire a bit. Trends in the industry. I don't think there's any genius behind this. I think what we're seeing is... I'm going to go out on a limb here. People are going to say you're an idiot. I think we're going to say goodbye to the $10,000, $12,000, $14,000 moving lights. They're disappearing. Everybody wants something smaller, and everybody wants something less expensive. And as we move into that world, we're going to give things up that we like. We're not going to have a $14,000 light that we can have for $5,000 anymore. Something's not going to quite work on it the way we want it to work. But I think the trend in the industry now is survival, and which of these major companies is going to survive by providing the equipment we need. I mean, if you look, a number of you work in kind of extreme theaters where space is very important. So all of a sudden, lights shrinking down. You can get more lights. You're fighting that batten. You're fighting the scenery. So the trend is something smaller. Are you willing to give up 18,000 lumens to get down to 14,000 lumens to get a light that's slightly smaller? Then the answer is probably yes, because you're just going to balance your show differently. So I think that trend is smaller, cheaper, and maybe a little bit faster.
And lighter.
And lighter, yeah.
I think I have a trend that I'm hoping I'm seeing, and maybe this is Pollyanna, but I'm seeing more support in education. And I am thrilled about that. You know, ETC has always been on top of that. I had amazing meetings with Roscoe and Roby yesterday that are looking into their educational support. Hog, is on it. Like, I'm just seeing more. Oh, all the visualizers are free to education finally. So I'm just seeing more support for education. I don't know if that's because I want to see or because I'm seeing it, but more and more companies are talking to me as an educator about what they can do for our students, which are their future customers. So I think it's a really exciting way that the trends that I'm seeing on the floor. So it's not exactly a gear answer, but I've been talking to people on the floor, and that's what I'm seeing.
I have to second that, because I've also seen that from more manufacturers, I think, this year than in previous years, that just want to give back. They want to give back and work with students, which I think is very healthy.
Well, I have a gear answer and a more philosophical one like Ann's. I keep noticing the strobes are so bright and they sustain so long and they flash on and off so fast. I'm actually worried about it. It's great that we can do that now, but man, you know, the strobing is like, that's a trend, and I worry about that. So that's the gear one. I also wonder, like, how many major lighting manufacturers do we need? And it used to matter because some were better than others, and now like everybody's making a good product. It seems to me there's a lot of really good product. So that's a trend. That's a nice thing. And philosophical, I'm going to get a little sentimental here, as you talked about the students. So I want to shout out to this Knights of Illumination Award thing that I went to last night. How many of you know what that is? It's great. I guess it's the second year in the States, and I was there as a guest of a student who was fortunate enough to win an award last night. But the point I want to make is, it took me back to when I started in this business, and it seemed, and I'm a New York kid, right? And it seemed like there was so much work to be had, and that work was sort of had by a certain number of people, and those people would sort of decide who they were going to share that work with. And we were a pretty small industry. And now you look at the show floor, like, we're a freaking industry with a capital I. I mean, we're not light fair, we're not architectural lighting, but we're big. And what I felt in that room last night, I know it's sort of a response to the designers not being honored in Tony Awards and all of that, and so we need to honor ourselves, but I felt so much love for lifting people up, lifting people who are starting out, lifting up young people, lifting up people of color, embracing people. There's a lot of work. We need a lot of people, and getting people going rather than, and I thought that was just a really beautiful energy, and I felt that coming from manufacturers. At every table they were sponsoring these awards, and there was just something heartwarming about that. And I have so many former students on the floor. Some are in this room, and I'm thinking, man, I don't know, it's that the competition has changed, the industry has changed, but there's just this wonderful industry that we're a part of that lifts you up and brings people along, and I think that's a lovely trend. The manufacturers are doing it, the teachers are doing it. There's a coming together. Maybe I'm just Pollyanna and optimistic, but I feel it, and it's really. And I came here feeling a little bit jaded, and I'm going home really enthusiastic. So
I agree. I was there last night. That was my second award show there, and there's a family to it. There was a family. Everybody was around the table. There were competitors of sorts, but everybody was talking together. Everybody was. It was a nice time. It really was. I thought it was great.
that's a nice trend. Let's keep it up.
Nice trend.
Yeah. After that heartwarming question, I have a hard one, I think. Do you think it's possible to get R99 from an LED fixture? Is that Clifton?
Who asked that? Clifton.
I recognize the
He gets
handwriting.
2 coffee mugs.
Maybe we should just get.
That's
Well,
right. Yay.
Now you both have coffee mugs. There you go.
Somebody
That's
else
great.
needs to answer it, though. I don't think I've tried.
I think Clifton needs to answer it.
Oh, yeah, the master of
okay.
color.
A rhetorical question. Maybe we should examine what R99 actually is.
Amber.
And I think, well,
I think Ann already did.
so here's what I'm curious about. So if we think about spectrum, right, and you have a great book on this subject. I'll plug Clifton's book, right? And I do a lot of reading on color too, so we
Everybody
have
buy
a
it.
bond on that. So frequencies. So one, and I'm going to quote my friend Scott Rosenfeld at the Smithsonian, who taught me a lot about light and color. Your eyes are not spectrometers, which is a great thing to remember. So, and LEDs are a spiky source, and they're not continuous. And so, how many frequencies do you have coming out of the light source? I was looking at this T1 fixture the other day that Roby's making, and I like to dig. So I read, it says trademark, blah, 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 light engine. So who's this company? So I go to this company and I find them, and I start digging into the light engine. So this is a 12 frequency light engine in that T1. I haven't seen it. Anybody seen the T1? Okay, you can tell me. So I'm wondering if you have enough wavelengths that are independently controlled. Probably yes. If it's a 4-color LED, maybe no. And then I think the other feature is, that color is a feature of intensity, brightness, as well as spectrum. So maybe has anybody tried to make something that feels like R99? Success or no?
Miserable failure.
Christina.
Fairly successful on a heavily pigmented set.
Yeah.
For those listening, we've got mixed answers.
Similar color, miserable failure.
So the consensus from our audience is maybe.
Maybe.
But
and maybe soon.
So could I speak for Wendy Lipke, who is really sad about not having the near infrared spectrum represented in the fixtures. So there's a whole set of wavelengths that's near infrared that we don't see in most LED fixtures. And I think you need that.
That answers that question we had before. That's what we need to see more of.
Yeah. More spectral control, right? I always work in direct mode when possible, and I think that's and teaching people I got to teach myself how to think about color differently than the way it's a new paradigm. But yeah, I was looking at a light. I'll tell a story. And you can cut this out, David, if it's too long-winded, but so that's a note to him. But I specified, I'm doing a building that has curved orchestra shells, and I need to put a fixture in a curved shell. That's difficult, right? So Wenger has a fixture they built that fits in a radius shell, and I specified it. And then my contractors, they can't buy it. So I went to Wenger angry. I specified your light. They're touting it. I get an email. I go to see it. It's called the Leito, right? It's got great gimbaling. It sits in it's beautiful. And I get there and I gave them a hard time. They're, yeah, well, we'll sell it to you with our shell attached. But this project, they're building their own shell. We couldn't talk them into buying a Wenger shell, so they're building their own shells. I wanted their light. They won't sell it. So I give them a hard time, and then they're showing me the light. But they didn't shoot. They have an RGBW version for orchestra shells, and they have a white version, but no tunable white. And I'm like, why not? So everything should be tunable white. So there's the answer. Everything as tunable as possible from the spectrum perspective.
I'd say I had a great meeting with, and I apologize if I say this name wrong because I just met him, Nadav Hirsch from Roscoe yesterday. Okay. And he's letting me borrow their new mix book. Yes. Which I'm excited to show in class. And I was playing with it for probably 20 minutes this morning just to see what it was all about. And it has an RGB, lime, warm white, and cool white in it. And the app connects to different colors that it can make. And I'm going to get this all wrong, but he told me right. They corroborate these colors with several different industries or manufacturers, I can't remember, but they only put colors in there that can be done by these several people. And R99, I believe, is in the app because I seem to remember bringing it up this morning. So there is a little critter out there on the board, on the console that on the show floor, but that believes it can make R99. So.
For those of you playing the home game, Clifton Taylor now has his device out, waving it around the auditorium, showing that it will turn it off. He has a wrinkled forehead, and he's now got his app on looking for R99.
That's a big step in the right direction, this device. Yeah.
Mine's in my hotel room where I'd bring it out too, and we could have battling mix books.
That and the generic device type format thing, those two things that are going to solve that thing. Can you do that yesterday, that generic device type thing? And I hope that comes along because that's driving me crazy with visualizers and patching and whatnot, all of that stuff.
Has Roscoe given a MSRP on the device
$99.
yet? $99.
$99.
Yeah, everybody can work.
So it's the no-brainer not to get one.
Right.
We have some questions about the reference source, like Christina and I were talking. I mean, it's not all, but it's a good leap in the right direction.
It's exciting where it could go, but
Yeah.
I believe 99's on the list. Maybe not. Clifton's looking.
It's on the list.
Yeah. How do you feel about it?
It's on the list meaning coming or? No.
It's there. Yeah. Okay. All right. Brackley.
Brackley?
I have our final question. It says, appropriate dogs at tech table? Who did that one?
Who gets a mug? Yay!
Gets a Must be a dog lover.
Gotta be.
Yeah, or not.
You know, there are some people who don't have dogs, and you wonder about them, or don't like dogs. I don't know.
Can I have a cat at the tech table, please?
Dogs.
Everybody's got to take care of their animals, so people bring kids into the theater. Why not dogs? So, it's got to be.
Not everyone's allergic to a kid.
Yeah, it depends on.
I am, so.
Right.
So, you gotta make sure it's well behaved.
I think at the tech table, but not on the tech table would be appropriate.
Yeah.
Well, let's take a sample from our audience. How many people would bring a dog to their tech table?
Oh,
So
everyone's
overwhelming.
animals.
It's like 80 to 1. And
How
one
many would
person's
bring-
holding two hands
Wait,
up.
how many?
How many would bring it?
I saw. I did. So I didn't go up. How many would not bring a dog to the tech table?
Now they're afraid
All right.
to say
So
it.
there you go.
is
There
a
you go.
minority that feels it's wrong. Okay.
How many would bring a cat to a tech table?
Yes.
I
They'd
br-
never stay, though. That's the problem.
I bring a lava lamp. It really sets the vibe. The lava lamp on the tech
Support
table.
animal.
Yeah.
Yeah. See? It's a cat or Xanax. That's how I can do it. Yes, they will. Might be better than what I do, yeah.
Well, that Hammond organ solo you hear in the background, composed and played by David Jacques, means you spend another Saturday morning listening to Light Talk. Be sure to follow us on Facebook and subscribe to our podcast. That way you'll not miss a second of Light Talk fun.
No guarantee is offered regarding the accuracy of any statements or opinions made on this podcast.
And just remember, if you choose to litigate, our law firm of Fleck, Fluff, Flare, and Glare, and their paralegal Snoot will defend us until our funds are depleted.
Light Talk is written and produced by the Lumen people. Coming to you from Live Design International 2019 in Sin City, Las Vegas, Nevada.
And be sure to tune in next week when we present more lighting, info, small talk, and solve the problems of the entertainment industry.
All of that, and Steve will have a new sponsor.
Light Talk, broadcasting questionable Lumen knowledge and humor around the world.
So if you arrived late, be sure to come down and get your Light Talk shot glass. And we'll see you all next Saturday morning. Bye-bye from Las Vegas, Nevada.
Bye-bye, everybody. So long.
David, we miss you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Thanks for coming.
Hey, will somebody take a picture of us?
Yeah.